This is something my clients and I often discuss, and I wanted to share some of these strategies with you if you are also having a hard time cutting down on the refined sugar. Now, I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a dietitian. What's different between me and others here on the internet who are the scientists with the PhDs and who get into the nitty-gritty about why we can't quit sugar, what sugar does to the body. I watch those videos all the time to get a better understanding from a mechanistic point of view, a scientific point of view. At the end of the day, I think people have the information, they just don't know what to do with it. They don't have the tools, they don't have the arsenal to deal with the cravings when they are in a bind. They don't have the system in place to help combat those challenges, and I thought I would share with you some of the tactics that I share with my clients in trying to battle the sugar cravings. I think what people take for granted is how tough it is to get rid of a substance that anyone has been relying heavily on for a number of years. And for you to be successful in replacing that substance with something else, you need a system in place. And what that means is people will say, I'm going to go sugar-free for 30 days. Those are great intentions, 100%. I love the ambition, but what I found is they'll say no to the sugar, but they don't have a system in place, a routine in place to help combat these urges when they occur, because they most certainly will. And an example is learning how to cook. Yes, you eventually got to learn how to cook, getting rid of the snacks in your house, throw them away, and prioritizing your meal nutrient density. I'll start with the meal nutrient density portion because this goes into people's love of snacking. And I found with several individuals that I work with, when I ask them, okay, so why are you snacking so much? It's because I'm hungry. Okay, well, what are you eating for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Oh, I forget to eat and I don't eat much. It's like, okay, I see what's happening here. You have to prioritize your meals. You have to ensure that you're getting at least 30 grams of protein, wherever you are on the diet spectrum from vegan to carnivore. Get your 30 grams of protein, get the adequate amount of carbs and fats depending on what your energy demands are for that day. If you do a lot of fitness and exercise, then your carbs are obviously going to be a little higher than your fats, but if you're mostly sedentary, then the carbs don't have to be that high, because I consider carbs to be a performance fuel. It's used for those higher energy demands, where fat can be used for several energy demands that are more low energy, just sitting around doing house tasks, not like you're sprinting or lifting, right? Those higher energy demands I think are more appropriate for the carb source to be relied on for. But what's happening is that people condition their bodies to use glucose for everything, even just walking from the door to the car. So we have to condition our bodies to recognize as fat as a suitable fuel source for several, if not the majority of our energy demands, and mainly rely on glucose for those fiery times. With that said, make sure you get the macros in order, but also make sure they are nutrient dense, right? No matter, get your fruits and vegetables in, and this all depends on your digestive system, what it could tolerate, any food sensitivities, any food allergies. That's why I don't recommend one diet to any of my clients. I make sure that they eat what makes their stomach feel comfortable and they can digest well. Because if you see the food in your poop, that means you didn't get any nutrients that food had to offer. It just went right through you. So that takes experimenting, right? Cooking and raw and kind of semi-raw, however you want to go about it. Make sure whatever you're consuming is properly digested. It's not giving you gas. It's not making you bloated. It makes you feel good. When people skip their meals or they don't prioritize their nutrient density, they automatically go for snacks, and biology will always win over willpower. When you are starving and you have not properly fed yourself, you're not going to reach for the asparagus. You're going to reach for the chips. You're going to reach for something hyper palatable, super salty, super sweet, both. And that zing you get when consuming those types of foods is perceived as energy. But when you think about it, your body needs a few hours to properly digest those types of foods for it to be properly utilized for those energy demands. When you eat something right away, that zip you feel is not energy from what you just ate. It's just your brain responding to what you just consumed. And if it's something like even a granola bar, that's often perceived as healthy, which I think not, because it's low in protein and has a bunch of junk in it, but just making you feel like you ate something that gives you energy, but it was just a dopamine spike that's gonna go down real fast, because especially since it's so protein deficient, your insulin needs to come in and help get all that glucose out of your blood, which is another reason why it's good to have lean mass on you, because the more lean mass you have, the greater glucose storage capacity you have, but that's for another video. And that dip in insulin that happens after it's trying to get all that glucose out of the blood is that slump you feel, and therefore feeling another urge to have more granola bars. You see where this is going? But I assure you, if you had the protein, if you had your fats and carbs in the appropriate ratios and ate enough for your meal, you wouldn't need a snack. And people who are hyperglycemic, again, is poor energy management. They've conditioned their bodies to only rely on glucose for low energy demands and constantly giving themselves an energy source that takes up a lot of space and gets used quickly, again, for walking around, for doing house chores, where you could just use your fat for those tasks. Fat is more storage efficient. That's why our bodies can store a lot of it. It's like ignoring the leftovers in your fridge that are perfectly fine, but always going out to eat. That's what's happening in your body. And that also leads me to my next point, learning how to cook. This is from someone who purchased all her meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Breakfast was a cappuccino with a pastry. I'm not kidding. Lunch was maybe like sweet greens that we have here in New York, or a casual dining type of a choice, Chipotle, dig in. Dinner was maybe a shrimp pad thai or more takeout, okay? Takeout after takeout. And every time I tried to cook, I dreaded it because it always felt like a disaster. It never felt smooth. I felt like I always struggled with the task, but I eventually learned with this evolution I went through, learning how to better nourish my body and realizing that eating out is not great because you don't know what they're cooking in their food. You don't know what they put in their sauces. So you have to make it yourself. You have to make it yourself. And now I cook most of my meals. I cook, well, all of my meals. And I occasionally eat out, but because I'm cooking for myself and feeding myself, I make sure I'm getting adequate amounts of protein, adequate amounts of fats and carbs, and I haven't snacked in years. There's really no need for me to, because again, I condition my body to use the nutrients I give it for each meal. And yes, for higher energy demands like my lifting, because I am becoming stronger and I am putting more lean mass on my body, I do have to eat more. Then I increase my energy intake for each meal. Maybe eventually down the line, my 3 meals have to turn into 4 meals. But right now, and for several years, prioritizing my meal nutrient density and making sure I'm getting adequate amounts of those nutrients has ensured that my need to snack has stayed down, is non-existent. And start small. I know it can be intimidating and you feel like you don't have time. Maybe sign up for HelloFresh, maybe sign up for a meal prep company that they send you meals frozen and you just pop it in the oven or the microwave. Whatever you can do. And again, this is about putting the system in place. If you usually eat out, that means you have to have meals already in the freezer or in the fridge ready to go. So when you have the urge, you know what to eat. It's already there for you. Don't try to get yourself out of it and say, I want this instead. Well, if you were hungry, you would eat anything. If you start to say, I feel like having this instead, then that's a craving. If you're hungry, you'll eat whatever is in your fridge and your freezer and you will not whine about it. But when you start seeking other types of foods, again, that is a craving, and you could probably wait until your next meal and not have to snack on anything. And if you're asking, well, Alicia, what's a suitable snack for me to have? There are no healthy snacks, because the act in itself perpetuates the grazing. It doesn't encourage you to prioritize meal, because you know what happens? Oh, I could just eat something on the way, or I could just pack this. No. Make sure you eat what you need for in your meal, because there are no snacks, all right? So you got to get it done. And one smoothie is not enough for a meal, especially for my clients who are all women. The 1,500 calorie a day, I personally think is too low. And having one protein shake for a meal, I think it's better to have that with something else, to treat it as a supplement for something else. But because I've done that before, and even if you bulk it up with kale and coconut butter and all these avocado, that's probably be a little better. People just tend to put fruit and like protein powder and water or juice, which is even worse, because my gosh, everything is broken down and that enters your bloodstream so quickly. You might as well be having a candy bar at that point. I know they're not equal in terms of the nutrient profile, I know, but the metabolic response is similar. That's all I'm saying. So again, prioritizing your meal nutrient density, learning how to cook and learning how to meal prep. Meal prep doesn't have to be bland. Season your food, please. There are a lot of recipes online. I'll make sure to tag some of my favorite IG cooks in the description box because they have helped me tremendously in expanding my menu and my cooking style, which makes it fun now. And again, you could spruce it up to suit your own taste, your own palettes, and have a ball. Replacing your snacking with another activity. I understand that taking a walk after feeling stressed or wanting to decompress is not the same as having popcorn, having Doritos, having Oreos. You have to rewire your brain to accept different activities as a replacement for your sugar snacks. Going on a walk, reading a book, maybe following a stretch routine. At this point, I have already posted a follow along with me beginner flexibility routine. It's 10 minutes long, 10 to 15 minutes, depending on what the edit shows. You could do that instead of having a snack because again, if you feel you can't snack because you're gonna die, that is an indication of poor energy management. You have to make sure you're eating better for your meals, and if you keep on skipping meals, then you have to learn how to pack lunch, okay? Or breakfast. Or dinner. Learn how to not eat for a few hours in between your meals. You will be fine. It's not like you're fasting for 24 hours or even for a week like some people do. It's a few hours and your body has more than enough energy to provide in the form of fat to have you go through. Drink some water with electrolytes. I like Element. They're not sponsoring this video, although I would love for them to be my sponsor. I have been a long-time customer for them for years, and I put a packet in my water in the morning and then I drink water throughout the day with another packet in there. If you're feeling snacky, it's probably because you're dehydrated, especially if you're feeling snacky for something salty. That's an indication that you're dehydrated. And then getting enough sodium in is vital, especially when you start to cut out the refined sugar, you start to cut down on the eating out, you will need to re-up your sodium levels. And I know sodium is often demonized, but you kind of need salt for a lot of functions to happen in your body. So make sure you're getting the appropriate salt intake, which goes hand in hand with water, because you just can't have the water. You need the proper ratios of the sodium, the potassium, and the magnesium, the electrolyte trinity, if you will, to be in the water. They're the shuttles that actually put the water in the cells. Again, I'm not a scientist, but from a layman's perspective, you need the electrolytes there for the hydration process to actually happen inside your body. So it's not just having water, but making sure you're getting adequate amounts of the electrolytes in that water. And I assure you, when you do, you will start to notice your cravings lessen because you're adequately hydrated, and maybe you're eating more for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You're getting more protein. And replacing again your urges to snack with another activity that's not going to give you mood swings, that's not going to make you more anxious, that's not going to induce that blood sugar spike that happens. And we're trying to lessen those spikes throughout the day, right? It's not like we're keeping insulin low forever, because you want to maintain a balance in your hormonal response. But in order to do that, we have to just give insulin less opportunities to do that, right? It's only going to do that 3 to 4 times a day versus 5 to 10 times a day, because that's what happens when you graze. That's what happens when you're sipping on a sugary coffee drink all day. That's what happens when you eat a little this, a little bit of that. If you were to look back on your entire day and see how many times you ate, even if it's calorically low, again, the metabolic response is immense, that your body just goes into just storing more food on your frame because that's what you've been telling it to do. If you're constantly eating nutrient deficient food, hyper palatable that you can overeat, because again, these foods are designed to be overeaten, and that's what these companies want. They want you to eat the family size bag all by yourself so you can buy more family size bags. So those are the tools that I suggest my clients to rely on when they are battling their sugar cravings and are looking to lessen their sugar intake. Prioritizing your meals, learning how to meal prep, and replacing your snacking with another activity are my top 3. And comment down below if you encounter challenges within those 3, because I know this is more general and comprehensive. And again, that is the difference with online coaching. It's a lot more personal and customized, where I get into your nitty gritty and try to break down the obstacles that are holding you back from making these changes. Hopefully this video helped. If you want to book a call, the link will be down below. And please share your experience down in the comments, as I am sure it will help someone else combat their sugar craving challenges. I'll see you in those comments, and until then, take care.